Welcome to the Nerds Domain presents Masks of Nerltep. Join us each week as our investigators follow a path of clues and attempt to save the world from an ancient evil. Starring John Quiet, Jestin Kimmet, Shirley Nedswicki, George Chipples, Jason Hall, and Scott Troiano, with me, Matt Quiet, running the table as the Keeper. Eldritch evils and crazed cultists await you just beyond this music. Welcome to our creation podcast. I'm Matt Quiet, editor-in-chief and producer over at nerdsdom.com. Today I'm sitting, sort of, with Jestin. Jestin, say hi.
Hello.
Today we're going to go through concept. Jestin has a pretty solid character concept, and that's where I like to start with Cthulhu. Cthulhu is more about roleplay than dice or combat, and the best place to start to get that roleplay is in a character concept. So, Jesse, why don't you go ahead and give us a little information about your character? Start with name, because that's important.
His name is Alessandro Bianchi, but he currently goes by Ichabod. He's Italian.
Italian or Italian-American?
Italian-American. He's a second-generation American, so he has very little... I don't have to worry about doing an accent. He's working as an investigator of sorts. He does more occult work, but that doesn't really pay the bills, so he does a lot of stuff like seances for elderly widows, things like that. He really wants to help out with society, but he just doesn't really know how to. And he's always feeling a touch disgrace for having avoided the Great War.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to tell us about your character right now?
That's about it. That's the main reason he changed his name to Ichabod.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to start off by determining your characteristics. We're going to roll 3d6 5 times to determine strength, con, power, dexterity, and appearance. And then we'll go from there. So you'll roll those, write them down, and then you can assign them as you see fit.
Okay.
We are going through 6 steps of character creation, so this will take just a few.
Okay.
So
you could say 5 times, right?
5 times.
All right. 11 for the first one, 15 for the second one, 13 for the third one, 15 for the fourth one, 14
for the fifth one. Okay.
Okay.
And then lightly, with a pencil, write these in the top right-hand corner of your character sheet under characteristics and roles. So this is for strength, constitution, power, dexterity, and appearance.
For strength, dex, intelligence, con, appearance, and power? So the first 6. Let's see here.
No, not intelligence.
Oh, yeah, or idea.
Yeah. Or idea,
okay.
yeah.
So, for the occult, that would be an intelligence-based thing, right? Or would it be power?
Incorrect. Power would be important, but occult is going to be skill-based.
Okay.
So it's all percentile off of the skill you will buy here in a little bit.
Okay, so that doesn't really matter with any of these things. You don't have to be intelligent to be a caster of sorts.
I'm sorry. Intelligence will determine... So you're looking at your characteristic box, you see that intelligence, power, and education are right next to idea, luck, and knowledge.
Yeah.
Your intelligence times 5 is your idea. Your power times 5 is your luck, and your education times 5 is your knowledge. For all of those, you will determine other things for them. Power also dictates your sanity. Intelligence and education dictate your starting skills. Or how, not necessarily your starting skills, but the number of points you can put into your skills at the start. So power also determines magic points. It's kind of a key central thing. So you might keep that in mind. Yeah. A high power means a high force of will, but you also, your appearance isn't super important. Sounds like you got everything above a 10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 10 is kind of average. Right? Technically 9 is average, but 10 is a little bit better. So everything you're going to be average in at least.
Okay.
Strength is important for damaging people in melee. So if you're going to punch people, you should probably have some of that. Constitution is important for hit points. But other than that, I mean, the rest of them apply here and there, but that's about it.
Okay. Is dex for shooting and whatnot, or is that...
Again, that's a skill.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
if you'll look on page 38, it kind of goes over each one. I can read them if you'd like, but there's a lot of words.
Okay. So I can be a fast-talking individual without having a very high appearance.
Right, and appearance is more of a like a first impression kind of thing.
Oh, good. I want that low anyway, because I want people to think little of me to start with.
Okay. And don't worry too much about these if numbers don't come out quite right. You're going to have the chance to move some stuff around here, even after we roll all this stuff.
Well, if I know anything, it's better to be lucky than good, so I'll go with 15 power.
That's also good for your sanity and your magic. And
so let's see, that's the lower ones there. I'll go 15 intelligence because I want a lot of skill points. That sounds important.
Well, I wouldn't write anything in intelligence because that's not one of the 5 you're supposed to be filling in.
Oh, you're right. I was filling in 6, wasn't I?
Strength, dex, constitution, appearance, and power.
Okay, if I was listening, I'd probably figure that out. Let's see here. So I got a 15, a 13, and a 14.
You have a 15, a 13, and a 14?
Yeah, remaining.
What else? What all have you filled in?
I filled in 11 for appearance and a 15 for power.
Okay. 11 in appearance. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably better to have more hit points because I don't want to die. I'll put a 15 in con, a 14 in strength, and a 13 in dex.
Okay. The next step is you're going to roll 2d6 and add 6 twice. One of these is for size and one is for intelligence.
Oh, okay. Nice. So you basically start off with a roll of a 6 for these.
Yeah, essentially.
Well, that's a 14. I can live with that. And that's a 9. Okay, so where do these go?
Size and intelligence. Intelligence is going to determine the skill points that you can distribute later. Size is going to determine part of your hit points and part of your physical ability to do damage.
So if I have a size of 9, I would be a skinny small thing, right?
You'd be a little smaller than average, yeah.
Then I'll be a little smaller than average. I'll go with an intelligence of 14 and a size of 9.
All right. Are you ready for the next step?
Yes.
You're going to roll 3d6 and add 3. This is your education.
13.
Is that with the plus 3?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Write that in your education.
Okay.
All right. Now we're going to go to the optional step. This is on page... There it is. 41 of the 6th edition book.
Okay.
We're going to let you move up to 3 points from one rolled characteristic to another.
Oh.
And you can do that up to 3 times.
Oh.
So your dex being a 14, I think, is what you said?
13,
or
yeah.
13. You could probably drop that down by a point or two if you wanted to, and maybe put that in size since you were a little worried about the size. Anything you want to move around, now you can. I would really, really strongly suggest not dropping your appearance below an 8. Which really, I guess you could do, but you really can't because it's at an 11. But if you want to drop your appearance down some, that's fine.
Okay. Let's see. 10. We'll lower my appearance down to 10. Actually, we'll lower my appearance down to 9, so that gives me 2 points.
I would suggest upping your size, honestly.
Yeah, I'll raise that to 11.
So, we talked about your character concept.
Yeah.
You avoided the war.
Yeah.
How did you avoid the war? Why did you avoid the war?
Mostly out of cowardice at the time.
Okay. And what did you do instead?
I was thinking something underhanded, possibly working with the mafia.
Okay, and what did you do with the mafia?
Well, since he is a coward, he wouldn't necessarily be a hitman. Possibly one of them that went in to clean up after the hits.
Okay.
Make sure there was nothing around. Possibly thinking that might be how he'd come across some of the occult books.
So you took 2 points out of appearance. Where were you putting that?
In size.
That'll put your size up to a 11.
And I'll lower my dex to... Now, how often does dex come up as a straight roll check?
As a straight roll, not a lot. It'll be something where you don't have a skill or there isn't a skill. And instead of just having you not be able to roll anything, I'll multiply your dex by 5 and have you roll against that.
Okay. I will lower my dex to 10. Being a person who makes a profit both kind of slightly off the occult and more off of grieving individuals and scamming people, would you think intelligence, power, or education would be of more use?
Ooh, that's a good question. The question is twofold. First, which one of those is going to give you the bump in the place that you actually want it mechanically? And the second question is, are you educated better, Are you more intelligent, or do you have a better force of will?
If I was intelligent, if I was educated better, it would be through Catholicism and less through actual schooling. Would that be a possibility?
Yeah. Part of what you told me is that you've picked up some of the books that you have.
Yeah.
And you've read them, right?
Yes.
That's education.
Okay, I see.
Intelligence is your innate intelligence. So, mechanically, education is actually going to give you a better bonus.
Okay.
You'll end up, when we choose your occupation, we'll get to this in a minute, but I'll explain a little bit. When you pick up your occupation, you'll have certain skills that you can put your occupation points into. You'll multiply your education by 20 to get that.
Okay.
Then you'll get personal interest points, which is your intelligence times 10. So you're actually, every point that you're putting in to education is worth twice as many as you would put into intelligence.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. So education would make sense even if I didn't have like a college education or anything.
Right.
Okay, then
Because even if you study on your own, that's still an education.
Okay, then I'll raise my education up to 16.
Okay.
And then I think I'm happy with everything else.
Okay, so let's read those off. What's your strength?
Strength is 14.
Dex?
10.
Intelligence?
14.
Constitution?
15.
Appearance?
9.
Power?
15.
Size?
11.
Skip that one. Education?
16.
All right. Now, we are going to look at occupations. So we're going to drop out of the Call of Cthulhu book and go into the 1920s companion book.
Okay.
There are 3 books that we're using for this adventure. I get to read one of them all by myself. It's the actual adventure itself. The other 2 books are the Call of Cthulhu 6th edition rule set and the 1920s companion. The 1920s companion we're using for 2 very specific things. First, occupations, and secondly, weapons, because the weapons in this are a lot more 1920s based, as well as more detailed than the base book. So Jesse, go to page 19 or 21 in the document, and that's where occupations start. What are you looking
How
at there?
to create your determined characteristics.
No. I said 19 and 21 in the document, not 20.
Occupations, earnings, like pauper, lower class, upper class.
Wow, you skipped a page.
Did I? Becoming
Should say adventurers and daredevils.
Adventurers and daredevils. Let me see. I've seen that somewhere. There it is. Yeah, aviators, like the first option.
So let's start going through there page by page. Aviator. Is that something you are?
No.
Okay. So you're going to skip the next 2 pages and go on.
Okay.
Big game hunter.
Nope.
Charter boat captain.
No.
Deep sea diver.
That would be cool, but no.
Okay. Explorer.
No.
Mountain climber.
Nope.
Prospector. Race car driver.
No.
Yeah. Race car driver.
No.
Treasure hunter.
Nope.
You sure?
Possibly. Actually,
Okay.
that might fit, but no.
So arts creative. We're just going to skip that whole thing because arts performing. We're also skipping. Athletics. We're going to skip. Business. Skipping. Clergy. Skipping. Criminals. So let's look in criminals under bootlegger thug. Oh, and you know what? No, you don't want that. Let's look under gangs. No, don't like that one either. Sorry.
Well, he's currently working as an investigator of sorts. Is there like a law?
There is a private investigator.
Okay.
I was just thinking you were...
In the past. I'm trying to put my past behind me and try to become a better person.
So we'll skip that. We'll skip journalism. We'll skip labor rural. We'll skip labor urban. Law enforcement's next. So you want to look at private eye.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Possibly.
So private eye. Skills are accounting. Are you looking at this? I'm sorry. Are you on the right page?
Yep.
Okay. Accounting, bargain, climb, disguise, drive auto, fast talk, fist punch, grapple, headbutt, hide, laud, jump, library use, persuade, sneak, swim, and track. Do those all sound about right for you?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Okay, I'm going to flip a couple of pages, see if I see anything else that makes sense. So currently you're working as a private investigator, but you're also doing seances?
Yeah, kind of an occulty sort of a person.
So at the back there's one called occultists. It has anthropology, English, history, library use, occult, and other language. Now, I understand that you have other stuff that fits your private eye things. That's fine. You can pick those up as personal interest skills.
Yeah, actually, I think occultist would work.
Hold on just a second. All of these have specials except for this page. We're going to give you a +1 power on this if you choose occultist.
Okay.
So does occultist look good for you?
Yeah.
All right. Well, then let's go ahead and mark, but not in the boxes. Do not mark the boxes. Lightly mark each of the skills here listed. Anthropology, English, history, library use, occult, and other language.
Library, history, occult, and other language?
Yeah, did you get anthropology?
Yes.
Did you get English?
Anthropology, no. English is a skill?
English is under own language, but you'll start with an 80 in, so keep that in mind. English is its own language.
True. And everybody doesn't speak it very well. So do I fill in a little box beside it, or do I just make a little mark?
Don't fill in the box.
Okay.
I clearly said that the first time.
But it's a little box.
Did you get all those marks?
Yes.
Okay. Looking at what else we have here, I'm actually going to add natural history on there as well. And so I told you that you get a +1 to power, correct?
Yes.
So go ahead and mark that as well.
Okay, so my power goes up to 16?
That is correct. So now we're going to go back to the Call of Cthulhu book, and we're going to determine some characteristics.
Okay.
All right, so first thing we're going to do is take your sanity. Or, I'm sorry, take your power, multiply it by 5.
Okay, let me dig up a calculator real quick.
That's 16 times 5 is 80.
Okay.
So, under sanity, which is directly below appearance, you're going to write 80.
Okay. Do I circle the little 80 on
you
sanity?
also circle 80. Don't write super hard in any of those boxes.
You're not saying that can go down, are you?
Well, even if it goes down, you'll still technically... I can't express... Like, you'll keep 75 as your sanity. You can eventually get back up there. However, you cannot go above that 75, and there are things that will make that permanent 75 lower, which we'll get to here in a minute. Okay, next thing we do is we multiply intelligence times 5. What's your intelligence?
My intelligence is 14.
14?
Yeah.
So that's a 70 that you write in idea. Your power times 5 again for your luck. That's an 80. And your education times 5, and that is your knowledge. What's your education?
Another 80. 60.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're going to add your your size and your strength together.
Okay.
That should be a 25, correct?
Yep.
Okay, under damage bonus,
Yep.
write plus 1d4. That's for all melee attacks you make, usually. Some weapons don't let you make it, but it'll say by the weapon.
Okay.
And then to finally finish out your characteristics and roles box, there's a space that says 99 minus Cthulhu Mythos.
Yeah.
You have no Cthulhu Mythos.
So negative 99?
No, 90? Why do I have to do this with everybody? 99 minus 0 is...
Oh, I got you.
Thank you.
At least I'm not the only one.
No, you're not. Except, at least you didn't fight with me for 10 minutes. I have that reporting, too.
So this, I read a little bit, and this is, as this number goes down, as you gain more information, and then your sanity
that
goes...
That 99 that you just wrote down, that is the maximum sanity you can have. So if you were to get 25 points of Cthulhu Mythos, you would only be able to have 74 sanity.
Oh, okay, I see. But that would also have you'd have more knowledge of the Cthulhu Mythos, too.
Yeah, that's not always a good thing. Okay, next we're going to do your hit points. So we want you to add your con and size together.
Con and size, okay, that's 26.
Divide by 2.
Dull.
Round up.
Okay.
So 13.
That seems incredibly low.
No. No, actually, I think you are either tied or second highest.
Okay, good.
It's really not that many either. So you'll notice on your hit points box, it says dead, -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. You see how those are all bold?
Yeah.
That means you're unconscious. So if you're ever at those points, you're unconscious.
Technically, I only have 11 hit points.
And then you're unconscious. In the magic circle, my magic point box, circle the power equal to the number equal to your power.
Okay.
and in the sanity box, do the same.
Okay.
Or
Sanity?
circle what's equal to your sanity. So.
I figured.
Okay. So did you get all that?
Yep, I think so.
So that top chunk of your character sheet should be all filled out.
Well, except for my nationality, birthplace. I know where they are. I just have to do it.
Okay. Next thing we're going to do is roll a d10.
A D10. That would be a 4.
Oh, good. Flip over your character sheet since you don't have a second page right now because you're a quitter.
Okay.
You have $3,500 in income annually. Doesn't sound like a lot. This is 1920s.
That's quite a bit, actually, isn't it?
More than it sounds like. Well, when you figure you can get a Model T for about $400, yeah. And write down that you have $17,500 in personal property. We'll figure that out. You will figure that out between now and the first game to decide exactly what that means.
It's all in one handgun and a whole lot of ammunition.
No, I don't think so. Next, we are going to do your occupation skills. So you're going to take your education.
Okay.
Times 20.
Times 20.
So it's a 16, right?
Yep.
That means you have 320 skill points to divide between your education skills. So it's anything that you marked from your occupation.
Oh, okay.
So you're going to divide these. Now you'll notice right next to everything, there's a percentage. So right next to library use, there's a 25%.
Yep.
That is your base percentage that you start out. So if you add 5 to that, you actually get a 30 and not a 5.
I see.
Couple of things about skills. More is not better. As in, more skills you have some sort of training in is not better than a few skills that you're very trained in. You have to have a 50% in any kind of skill that would work directly for your current occupation. So occult, you should have at least out of 50.
Okay.
To be considered an expert in your field, you would have at least a 75. And to be considered for a doctorate, you would probably have an 80 or 90. Now, keep in mind a couple of things. First, the only way that I am aware of in the game, and I'll admit I am not the master of Call of Cthulhu yet, but the only way that I'm aware of in the game to truly gain back sanity is to take a skill and through successfully using it and successfully increasing it, take it above 90. When you do that, you'll get a D10, I believe it's a D10 sanity back. It's kind of a big deal. It's kind of hard to do, but that means that you do not want to start at a 90 in anything.
Okay.
Because you're not going to benefit from that.
Yeah.
So that's a little min-maxing, but honestly, it's not about min-maxing. It's about actually using a bonus from the game, and it's very hard to use that bonus to begin with. So I'm not going to try and screw you out of it any more than you already are.
Okay.
So essentially, instead of having 2 skills at 35, it's better to have 1 skill at 70. But you have 320 points and not that many skills to pass them through. If you are into occult and you're Catholic, that means your Latin should be at least a 50, if not a 75.
It was going to be 75, yeah.
Okay. Also keep in mind that a lot of occult books are written in French and German, because that's kind of where they were, and maybe some Spanish. So those 3 languages are going to be important. French and Spanish are what we call romantic languages, which means they're based on Latin, whereas English is based on German and Slavic languages like that. Russian has its own kind of weird thing. It is a Slavic language, but it uses a very different alphabet. And then Arabic couldn't be more different. And then you get into Cantonese and Mandarin and the Eastern languages, and they're very, very different. There's some shared stuff between Japanese and Korean and Japanese and Korean and Mandarin and Cantonese and Thai, but their ties are much looser. There's not necessarily a language family there, like there is with the Latin language family, because the Latin language family is French, Spanish, Portuguese, and actually Spanish and Portuguese, if you speak one, you can get away with trying to speak the other one pretty easily. They're pretty close. Keep in mind you're also Italian, so you probably speak some Italian. If if it wasn't spoken in your house, your grandparents probably screamed at each other in Italian. That's what they did. Since you're second generation, they would have come over, or your parents would have come over. Does that all make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so let's look at where are you starting?
I started with 75 in occult.
Wow, you're already doing this, aren't
Yeah.
you? So your occult started out at I'm having trouble finding there. At a 5%, you dropped 70 in it.
Yep.
Okay, so that leaves you 250 points,
I put 75 in Latin.
which puts you at a 76, because it starts at 1%.
Oh, does it? I thought it started at 0.
Nope, everything starts at least
Okay, then
1.
I'll put 70. Yeah, I'll put 75 because that keeps my math simpler.
Keep the numbers. Yeah. Yeah, so that puts you down to 175.
Okay. I put 50 in German.
Okay, that puts you down to 125.
25 in Italian.
Okay, that puts you down to 100.
Okay, let's see here. 100 left. And I can't use these for anything but those that are marked, right?
Right, and you should have some history and some natural history.
Yeah.
You don't have to have anthropology, but 2 of those 3 would be important. Because occult is a study of, it's a study of culture as well as actual occult.
I'll put 50 in. I'll put 50 in anthropology since it's 0.
No, it's a 0-1.
Okay.
So that'll put you at a 51%.
And that leaves me with 50, right?
Yes.
25. I'll put.
Now remember, 1 skill at 50 is going to be better than 2 skills at 25.
Yeah, I'll put 30 into history, which will make it a 50. And that leaves me with what?
20. What do you have left?
I'll go ahead and add. You said some of the books are in French, right?
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and put French up to 21 then. Okay. Apparently I can speak languages.
That's fine. All right, so you've spent all of those points, right?
Yep.
The next thing we're going to do is take your intelligence and multiply it by 10. What does that give us?
Let's see. It's 14.
140.
Yep.
Okay. Couple of things. You're a private investigator, and you worked for the mob. You probably learned to either shoot a gun or punch people.
Yeah.
You have a physical, a melee damage bonus of a D4. It's a lot of damage. When you consider that you have a 13 hit points, 1d4 is, a third of that, potentially. So look down at your damages and decide, or look down at the melee weapons, and then we can look at guns later. But decide kind of where you want to put it. I would put it in one or the other, but not both. And then I have some other suggestions, but we'll get there.
Okay. Not that I'm trying to min-max damage or anything, but what would be the damage on a club?
That is a good question. Let us go to the 1920s Companion Guide. So you want just a regular old club. So, clubs, you have 3 options according to the 1920s Guide. You have a blackjack, a large club, and a small club.
A large club would be the one I'd be looking at. I want a club that I could use as a walking stick, basically. But
so kind of like a baseball bat, sort of.
Yeah.
But okay. So yeah, large club, it's 2-handed. It would do a D8 plus your damage bonus.
Okay. And that is that decent damage compared to other weapons? I can't see myself using a sword.
A heavy pistol.
Yeah.
A shotgun. A regular old shotgun with a slug does a D10 plus 2. I think at a 12 gauge. So, but these also go off of their own specific skills. Like the large club goes off of the large club skill.
Yeah.
So you're not a dapper young gentleman with a sword cane?
No, I thought about that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It does.
It seems kind of overdone, and I'm not 100% sure somebody else in the group won't already be doing that.
I can guarantee you that no one else in the group has any kind of melee weapon.
Oh, really?
Oh, I take that back. One guy has a knife.
It just seems more personal wading in with a giant stick and beating something over the head with it.
Okay,
what would be the damage on a saber or sword?
The sword cane does a D6 plus impale. Impale says, God bless, where's that at? I'm trying to think where that's at. I believe Impale says that if you get in the lowest 20% of your skill, so if you had 50% in sword cane and you rolled 10% or below, you would actually roll damage twice.
Oh, really?
That's what Impale says. Yeah. It can be kind of dangerous. So
I still like the idea of walking around with a
whacking them. That's fine.
Giant stick.
That's fine. So large club, write that down underneath kick. and your starting percentage is 25, which you'll add to, I'm sure. And if you want to fill out the rest of it, we can.
And then that's out of the 140, right?
That 25 is free.
Yeah.
Anything you add to it is out of that 140.
Youch. Okay, because out of that 140, I was interested in locksmithing and possibly their persuade or fast talk.
Okay, well, there's still plenty of points there.
Yeah.
You could drop 30 or 40 points into it and still get a decent skill out of it. You're not going to hit every time, but you're not going to miss all the time.
True.
Hypothetically, percentage-wise, based on statistics, I guarantee no hitting.
Well, if I was trying to, say, con someone into believing in, like, say, a seance going off, would that be more of a fast talk or a persuade?
That's a persuade.
Okay, then. So persuade is the one I'm more interested in there. Spot hidden. I'm used to playing typical Dungeons & Dragons games. When you're looking for something, you typically roll a spot. Would that be a spot hidden in this one, or?
Yes, I will also tell you to roll spot when I see fit.
Okay. So that would...
I honestly would suggest that you pick up some first aid. It would have been, if you were a cleaner for the mob, you were probably used as that guy who can patch you up.
True.
So you might look at first aid. I say that also because there's one other guy in the party that has any kind of ability to help people heal. Notice I said help people and not actually heal them. First aid is going to be really important. And it starts at a base of like 30, so you don't have to drop a whole lot of points in it to be decent at it.
Okay. Does anybody else have locksmith at all? Did you know of?
Nobody.
Nobody? Okay.
Nobody at all.
Then those would be the two that I'll be looking at splitting my points between. I'll ditch persuade. I just won't be good at my job.
What's persuade start at?
15%.
You could still drop 25% into it and get it a 40. And I know I just made arguments for why you didn't want to do that, but...
Well, I was thinking if I drop my 40 into my large club, that'll raise that up to 65%.
That leaves you 100 points.
Split my 100 between locksmith and first aid. That'll give me 80 first aid and 50 locksmith.
Why don't you drop the locksmith to only put... the first aid to only put 30 points in there.
Okay.
Then put 50 points in locksmith, and then that leaves you 20 points to put in persuade.
Okay.
You're not the greatest at it, but you have a good start.
True. And to get a skill to go up, how does that...
So what will happen is, during the course of an adventure, which in this case, for the Masks of Gnarltep Adventure Path, it has 6 chapters, so at the end of every chapter we're going to go over this. Anything you have used successfully during that chapter, you'll mark in the box to the left of the skill, hence why you didn't mark it earlier. At the end of the adventure, you will look at those skills, and for each one you will roll percentage. For each one that you go over the percentage you have, so for instance, you have, what do you say, anthropology, is that correct?
Yeah.
What's your anthropology
51.
at? If you rolled a 52 or above, you would go up in that skill.
Oh.
You will roll a 10 and add it to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so every time you actually fail at a skill, it has a chance of going up.
No. When you succeed at a skill, you mark the box.
Okay.
At the end of the adventure, then you check to see if you go up.
Oh, so the more you have in a skill, the harder it is to go up in it also.
Exactly. You can only be so... if you're a master at something, there's only so much more you can learn.
Yeah.
It should be noted that skills only go to 99, so there's no chance of you going above that. So did you get everything you wanted there?
I think so.
Figured out? Okay. So the next step is determine weapons. We've kind of done that. Let's look at that large club, though, again, because we need to fill in the rest of that information.
Yeah.
It does a D8 plus damage bonus.
Okay, so 1D8 plus 1D4? Yes.
I would put plus DB.
Okay. That can't change.
Because your damage bonus could go up or down, whatever. I'm not sure how it could go up or down, but it's possible. The number of hands it takes is 2.
Okay.
Range is T, or touch, because you have to be pretty close. And number of attacks is 1.
Okay.
And it looks like...
I don't have that on my sheet on hand-to-hand weapons.
You don't?
No, it has attacks. Oh, yeah, attacks per round. Damage. It doesn't have a handedness.
Okay.
I just put down that I had 2 attacks per round. I'm cheating already.
That's fine.
And it also has hit points.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. We're going to give you 6 hit points on the weapon.
Okay.
It's a lot of hit points on a weapon. It's assuming it's a nicely made walking stick,
Yeah.
which is probably more of a cane, honestly. So, walking sticks don't make sense in the city. Canes
I was
do.
thinking instead of like the head of a normal cane, it'd be like a big bulbous top.
Okay. And then, do you want any guns? I would suggest a handgun.
I would be interested in a handgun just to...
If you'll look at handgun, it starts at like 20%.
Yeah.
It's not great, but it's not horrible either. And frankly, having a pistol is important.
I do have a question. I should have probably asked this before I started up with the concept of being melee. If I'm in melee and my friends are shooting into it, is there any sort of...
Don't worry about it.
Okay, I didn't know if there was negatives for this particular...
Nope, it doesn't. No, the monsters will kill you. You don't have to worry about your friends.
Good.
So let's talk about what kind of gun you want. I'm in the 1920s companion book again.
Okay.
I'm in the page 106 in the document. So
106?
Yeah. I don't actually see a page number.
Selection of handguns. It would probably be something that would be not overly expensive, but not rare either.
Well, and I'm not charging you for weapons, so keep that in mind.
Okay, so what's the most expensive weapon I can buy?
No. So let's look at a couple of things. First, anything made in 1925 or after is not available to you. So we're starting in January of 1920, so you can't have anything 1925 or after. Next thing we're going to look at is action and loading. So you'll notice there's semi, rev, and two-shot.
Yeah.
Two-shot is the Derringer. Let's just ignore that.
Okay.
Semi-automatic is exactly what it sounds like, and revolver is exactly what it sounds. However, there is a Revolve 1. That is a gun that you have to cock by hand. There's a single-action revolver. The hammer does not get pushed back by the action.
Okay. Does that actually take more time to fire?
I don't think so. The single revolver is slower, simpler design. Firing the weapon rotates, but the weapon must manually be cocked, usually pulling the lever back with a thumb. There is no effect, but it's going to be clear that it's an older weapon. So you notice that one's an 1872 Colt single-action Army revolver.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen Untouchables, is the wrong movie.
I think I know what you're talking about. Like the kind of gun you see in a typical Western.
Yeah, the ones. Doc Holliday in that movie where the guy that played Val Kilmer plays Doc Holliday.
Okay, yeah, that's Tombstone?
Yes, it is. He has a single-action gun, I believe, or him or Wyatt Earp.
Then yes, that's actually the one I'm interested in having, Colt single-action Army revolver. I'll say it was a hand-me-down from my father who was in the Civil War, which is another reason why I feel...
Well, he wouldn't have gotten in the Civil War, Jesse.
Oh, yeah, that's right. 18.
War was over in 65.
Yeah, never mind.
So, I mean, it could still be something that's bought. I mean, just because it's 1872 doesn't mean it's not available. A lot of these guns are made year after year after year. So,
true.
That's fine. I would suggest you notice that it's a side load, which means that the little door opens and you put each bullet in individually. Whereas a swing load, the whole barrel swing, or not barrel, the tumbler or whatever, it swings out.
Oh, it is just a side loader?
Yeah, and then there's, of course, the brake load where the whole, whatever, what is that called?
Cylinder?
Yeah, the cylinder forward breaks in half almost, and you load and unload that way.
Yeah, the whole thing pops out. I have one in my hand right now.
Oh, good. So you'd probably want a swing load.
Yeah.
Which there's a bunch of really good Colt swing loads. Looks like there's a couple of Smith & Wesson swing loads. You know what? There's only one Smith & Wesson swing load that you can get, because the other one's made in 1927. So that looks like those are your two big options. There's another Colt, a swing with clip. I'm not sure what swing with clip means.
If it had a clip, I could only assume that it wasn't a cylinder load then.
Well, it's swing with clip. I have no idea. So I would suggest choosing something that has a swing loading. So unless you really want that Colt single action, and then of course there's capacity.
I'll stick with a 38. I've actually used the 38. So the Lightning, the Colt M1877 Lightning.
Okay. So write that down on the back of your character sheet.
Oh, okay.
So it's going to take a 38 Colt. It's a revolver, and it's a side load. You're also going to write down that it has a 6 capacity, and it has 10 hit points.
Okay. Is this sort of realistic with the time frames and all that, or has anything changed? I mean,
It'll be realistic with the time frames. Why do you ask?
Basically, 38s aren't going to be hard to find or anything.
No.
Okay.
The only weapon, or the only ammo on here that I see problems finding is the 455 Webley Auto. It's at the very, very, very bottom.
Yeah.
It is only available for one gun. Most stuff you're going to be able to find, honestly. So let's go over to page 114. So you'll notice that you have a medium caliber gun with the 38 auto.
Yep.
It does a D10 damage. You see that?
Yeah.
There's a couple more things we need to write down, but that's a big one. Your base range is 15 yards. And then let's look at rate of fire. This is a double-action revolver. It's a medium caliber. So currently, with your handgun at 20, you will be able to fire 3 shots every 2 rounds. So you'll be able to fire 2, and then 1, and then 2, and then 1, and then you'll have to reload.
Okay. So it's not one of those where you have to do the short round first sort of games.
No. And then you'll notice on page that I'm getting us off of page 115. There's a 2 in parentheses next to it. If you get your handgun to 75 in percentage, you can then fire 2 shots around every round.
Oh, okay.
You're good enough that you can fire pretty quickly. And reloading, you are on a side load, so you can reload 2 cartridges per round.
Okay.
That will be the only thing you're doing that round. Just keep that in mind.
Okay.
And then finally, malfunction table. You're using a revolver, so you on a double aught you will malfunction, meaning that on your percentile dice when you roll all zeros, that's not going to hit no matter what.
Okay.
But you'll also malfunction. That's your clean malfunction. I'm going to assume that everybody's weapons are going to not become dirty until such time that they do, and then I'll deal with that.
Okay.
And that should do it for all of that. Did you want to pick up any other weapons or just the one handgun?
That should be good. I do have a question.
Okay.
Drawing weapons and things. What kind of action does it take to do that? I mean,
I just assume that you can draw a weapon as part of your firing round.
Okay.
That's not a big deal. Is that it?
That should do it.
Okay. So you want to transfer all that information over into the firearm area. Your handgun is at a 20. You can do that after we're done because we're almost done.
Okay.
The last thing that we're going to do is in the top left-hand box, you're going to write down your investigator name, marks, scars, mental disorders. You want to make sure that I believe you can turn your character sheet sideways, and there should be a box that says player name.
Yes. Write
your name in there.
I never do that.
Your minimum age is your education plus 6. So your education is a 16, plus 6 is 22.
Okay.
However, this game takes place 7 years after the end of the Great War, which means that if you were eligible for the Great War, you would have had to have been at least 18 9 years ago, making you 27.
Okay.
You can't feel guilt about something you could not have registered for.
True. I'll put myself at 30.
Okay. If you go above 40 for some reason between now and then, that changes some stats.
Does it change them in a good way? Should I be 40?
No, you'll lose points.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Okay.
End of creation. So, that's it for us tonight on Nerds Domain Presents The Masks of Gnarltep. You can always send us an email at nerdsdomain@gmail.com or catch us on Twitter. I'm Quiet, and Jesse is at @J_Kimmet. And you can follow the website at Nerds Domain. You can also catch us on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdsdomain. We want to thank Josh Shop for our music. If you enjoy our podcast, we encourage you to give us a review on iTunes and let us know what you think. We'll talk to you real soon.